Hello everyone, my name is Scalti and welcome back to our Satisfactory Let's Play. Last time around we got our coal generator facility up and running, which was definitely an interesting process to say the least. We got some basic copper sheets produced and opted to utilize the 2 normal and 2 impure nodes in the northwest corner of the map. And trying to build with the curvature or curved foundation build style is a very tedious process when placing everything manually, so we rushed the blueprint machine and started using that, and it was a huge time saver despite all the manual crafting to get that up and running. But ultimately really happy with the result and its flexibility in future updates and how everything just kind of turned out with the logistics and how the miners are housed and whatnot. I think this is just a really nice evolution / expansion of the build style, and I'm looking forward to more. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into steel production. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so a little bit of an extended introduction here. So yeah, we wrapped up the coal generators, and I know that at the point this episode came out was about 5 weeks ago. Just a little update of what's going on between now and then for those watching live. Went on vacation, went to a music festival, it was a fantastic time. Got back from the music festival, and then got sick for 2 weeks. And then in part of getting sick for 2 weeks, that kind of turned into 2.5 to 3 weeks that got extended, and just kind of feeling lethargic and not motivated to really work on anything. And when you take a break from a game like this for that long, especially with trying to edit something that I recorded at this point 7 weeks ago at the time of editing, challenging to say the least, to try and get that motivation. So with that being said, though, I appreciate everyone's patience between episodes for those again watching live as these episodes are coming out, and appreciate your support and understanding and patience. But with that, let's focus on what we're doing. So I wanted to go through the MAM tree now that we have a little bit more breathing room, if you will, with having fully automated power and a little less busyness to do in feeding the generators for biofuel. Figured, all right, let's take a look at what we got going on. Take a look at some of the new stuff in 1.0, like the dimensional depots. Fantastic pieces of technology, understanding what they do and their purpose, and was definitely something that I want to work towards as quickly as possible. Looking at quartz as well, would be nice to formalize some production. Crystal oscillators not so much, because we can't even make them yet because we don't have the manufacturers unlocked. We're just trying to understand kind of what were the changes made in the MAM for 1.0. Actually, I think it was made in update 8, some of the changes overall. But just kind of understanding, all right, where do we go from here now that we have a moment to pause and reflect and really try and be a little bit more methodical on what we work toward. So that was a lot of word vomit. So long story short, we're going to focus on Caterium. Here I'm kind of indicating, I understand that turbo fuel is down the sulfur line, but Caterium is honestly where it's at right now for a couple of reasons. The biggest one, Mark II power pool, is absolutely amazing for sure. The zip line, don't sleep on it, by the way. Pretty fantastic tool. But yeah, want to get Caterium set up. 1, because the Mark II power pools, but 2, also it's just a really nice source for Awesome Shop points and tickets to get that all set up and underway. So here's our Caterium node. You can see our base off in the distance. So we are east, southeast from our base. We have a nice pure Caterium node here up on this cliffside. Just built some ramp foundations to get up here, and was thinking, all right, we'll do some storage down below because we want to get quick access to it, and I don't want this obnoxious ramp here. And don't want to try and make too many temporary things. Like, that's why we built the rotor smart plating and reinforced iron plate factory in the way that we did. So want to get a nice simple setup here, make sure that the foundations that we place are going to be able to accommodate covering up everything, and so that way we get our miner in place as well, using from our coal generator build our miner depot blueprint. With the miner placed, went ahead and placed 3 smelters to process the ore. It's 45 in, 15 out. We're going to be underclocking, so it's going to be 120 in, 40 out. And what's really convenient is because the output is so low, we can just merge it onto one singular belt and then divide it up pretty simply into 4 constructors. So it's going to be 10 Caterium ingots in per constructor with an output of 50 quickwire. So we'll be making 200 quickwire in total from this setup, which is pretty nice. And because it is 200 out, we will require our 2 awesome sinks in order to properly process everything. And then as you can see, we're just running the output for our storage down in the middle between the constructors for our quick and convenient access for use as needed moving forward. Once we had our storage set up, went ahead and built the MAM to get Caterium electronics unlocked, so that way we could actually get to the Mark II power pole and get that unlocked as well.
New Caterium research options available. Congratulations on finding this metal. Many Fix-It initiatives will benefit from Caterium's applicability in advanced engineering. Also, it is probably not sentient, and so unlikely to feel pain as we exploit it.
But yeah, and then looking at, AI limiters and pause.
Power pole Mark II unlocked. This provides additional power connections compared to the Power pole Mark I.
All right, yeah, so looking also at the AI limiters, which we would then need for the smart splitters, which would make overflowing a lot simpler. But getting the Mark II power pole unlocked is fantastic for the extra 3 connections per pole. But we will have to, as you can see here, we only have the Mark I still, so we'll have to go to the Awesome Shop and unlock the Mark II versions of the wall outlet and double wall outlet. But hey, we have Caterium wire or quick wire flooding into an Awesome Sink at 200 per minute-ish. Technically, I guess 100. But we'll be able to get those points in no time and get everything purchased up. So, but with the zip line unlocked, great little fun tool that I so learned after giving it a go. I definitely slept on it thinking it was pretty remedial, but learning curve's a little steep. But the overall benefit of this thing, going from factory to factory, especially in the early game, to not have to slide jump everywhere with Blade Runners, kind of nice. And it's just a very I think the way to put it would be the ASMR aspect of it, like the sound design of the zip line, I think is really enjoyable as you're utilizing the line. But did a little bit of call it kindergarten learning, a little safer environment in which to test and not fall and take unnecessary damage, and just trying to understand and learn like that. For example, how you go from cable to cable with jumping, and can you hold left click? No, you can't, or at least not in my instance, but it's not too bad. And also the little hop we get to transfer over, I think, is really great game design as well, just to make it possible to get around the power pole. More often than not, user error sometimes can leave you a little disjointed, if you will. Case in point. Oh man. What a great tool, though, otherwise. Highly recommend to get this and explore with it in the early game. Before we depart from this build, though, just a few final touches that I wanted to communicate real quick. So we used some half foundations, 4 meters in height, all the way around the build, just to kind of establish a little level of purposeful intent, if you will, and somewhat tuck away some of the bits on the inside. But overall, gets the job done and looks fairly, we'll call it refined. Could use a little bit more effort, but we got stuff to do. To that end, we want to move through our quartz line a little bit in the MAM tree, but to make it easier to get to the quartz, makes sense to go ahead and unlock the detonator and obelisk using steel pipes we got from the crash sites that we went exploring for. So that way we can blow up all the rubble near the coal generator facility. With these now in our arsenal, went ahead and unlocked access to the cave. And as we made our way to the quartz, went ahead and blew up all the gas columns aka from what I've seen, these are technically the nests of the arachnid creatures, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, ran power through, so that way we can get some automation set up for our quartz. And then also, if you recall, there's also a SAM node down here. So huge gains to be had. So we quickly got our simple quartz set up. Because this is in a cave, it's very out of sight, out of mind. Didn't want to do too much polish for it. It's going to be left and forgotten, but running through the math here, we have a line of 120 raw quartz being broken out into 2 lines of 60. We take 1 line of 60, break that out into 2 lines of 30, then take 1 line of 30 and break that out into 2 lines of 15. We take 1 line of 15, remerge that with a line of 30, giving us 45 raw quartz, divide that equally into 2 constructors, making silica. Then we go back to that original line where we're breaking out that 30 into 15, merge 15 with 60, giving us 75. We then take that 75, divide that twice into our constructors, making quartz crystal. Then we take all of this, store some of it, sink the rest, get us some more points, so that way we can continue on working through the man tree. And while we're here, as mentioned, we have a SAM deposit. So while we were setting up the quartz, I went ahead and had a manual miner, or portable miner, gathering up SAM ore, or just SAM, and then unlock the SAM reanimation. Which recipe is pretty simple. It's just 120 in, 30 out. So it is a normal node, so we're only getting 60 out of it. We are going to need to overclock it, but went ahead and just did the single constructor, and then we're splitting it, keeping half and then sending the other half to the awesome sink just to continue our point gain, so that way we can get things out of the awesome shop as needed, and then also storing some of it so that way we can proceed through the man tree as needed as well, just continuing forward so that way we can eventually get a little closer to unlocking these storage depots. Last but not least, getting the parachute unlocked, pretty paramount for the early game as well. One of the big changes is the fact that it's reusable. It's no longer a consumable, which is a very welcome change, and this makes exploration a lot better, especially in the early game. So combining the parachute with the zip line and the blade runners, those are essentially the holy trinity of early game exploration to make it a lot simpler, and more specifically with the parachute, safer. Especially as we saw with using the zip line and falling, the parachute will help us avoid that as much as possible moving forward. But hey, if we have the means to explore, why not explore, right? Go get some more hard drives before we actually, work towards completing this phase, even though we still have some time. But also, one of the benefits of exploring is to get some Mercer spheres for the storage depots and researching that tech. But at the end of the day, just wanted to do some exploration and kind of get away from the construction process, because that last project was a beast of amount of time it took. So, got some hard drives. I thought that was a cool edit. We also took some time and rode on the Moth for a little bit and enjoyed the scenery, and just a nice little reprieve. But coming back, we got quite a bit of stuff from all the different crash sites. We got some Sommer sloops, we got some Mercer spheres, plenty of hard drives, some power slugs. It was definitely a valuable venture, and positions us pretty good in terms of having some complex materials to avoid manually crafting for future milestone unlocks in the hub. One of the alternate recipes we unlocked from one of those hard drives that we got during our adventure was the steel rotor. Absolute amazing recipe for motors, because if you guys have seen my ASMR factory or automated stator motor rotor factory, it uses the same material, pipes and wire, as stators, which makes the whole production line so much simpler. It takes iron out of the equation, unless you opt for like iron wire and iron pipes, but this definitely simplifies that whole process. Alright, so a little bit of a mistake on my part during the recording process. Unfortunately, I did not record what I thought I was recording, or at least when I was recording it, I thought it was going to be what I needed to record, and I can promise you it wasn't. So long story short, this is where we're going to be building the factory. We're going to be producing steel ingots, steel pipes, and also encased industrial beams. So if we look over on our to-do list on the right, that's why we have our 2 assemblers and 4 Mark 1 miners. So we have 2 coal nodes below us. We have a pure iron on the cliff right there, and then off in the distance behind us toward the south side, we have a pure limestone that we'll be tapping into and bringing that over for the encased industrial beams. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially just trying to figure out what is the area of the factory going to be, both footprint, and also I wanted to kind of create not just a box, right? So figuring out like that part's going to be an overhang, and then we'll have like solid foundation space here where essentially I'm standing, and we'll have like, you know, necessary logistic work, and then up on the top floor, you know, we'll have basic production of refining the metal into steel ingots, and then we'll also be producing a few steel items, and then on the top floor we'll be producing the remainder. To reinforce the point that I goofed, I apparently did not record any of this building, so I just kind of have it. So to quickly kind of go over it, the 2 assemblers in the back are making our encased industrial beams, and then our constructors on top are making our steel beams. And then we have 5 constructors here down below making concrete, and 1 of them making our pipes. And the logistics for this are pretty simple and straightforward. So that's the constructor making the steel pipes, and the rest here are making our concrete. And then we're channeling up the material through the central column here. All right, I wanted to take a second here. It's a little dark, a little hard to see. Apologies for that. You know, mods still weren't working at this point, but I wanted to kind of go over how the design language is informing the placement of belts for logistics coming into the factory. So based on these corner columns here, these quarter pipe corner columns, they are essentially demanding or requiring that any belting that comes into the factory has to be on a foundation seam, for example, just so that way it's easy, one, for alignment of the quarter columns to be placed without requiring nudge. Also, I want to make sure that any gaps, if you will, are a full 8 meters in width, so that way I don't need to clip a half foundation specifically, and this is again driven by the texture of the uncoated concrete foundation. So that's the side of the uncoated half foundation. One side has the texture, the other side is like a concrete rough texture. And so due to that reason, it's very apparent when there's clipping, and I just wanted to try and mitigate clipping of the foundations on the exterior wall as much as possible. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the specific placement, and I needed to make a small little adjustment where the floor holes were being placed for the product coming into the factory. But while I was working on the factory, I was also being mindful to take a look at the hard drive alternate recipe options, and came here for the encased industrial pipe strong recipe because of the iron pipe, and then also that essentially just takes coal or steel out of the equation for heavy modular frames. The solid steel ingot here was the selection. Not ideal. The compacted coal is not great because it's using sulfur. Overall, I didn't think to re-roll it, unfortunately. And then the 6 inventory slots versus the alloy ingot here was just an easy pick, just to get the inventory slots for quality of life. Long story short. So for the most part, the factory is pretty much complete. Just spending the time here getting our Mark II miners down. And this is a first look at the limestone coming over from the limestone node. Overall, pretty similar look. Same blueprints used for the coal power facility. And then showing here how they can be stacked in a way for verticality. And I thought it was a pretty nice, elegant solution. Where essentially we just use the base columns to create that vertical distance, and then we use the floors at 2 different elevations and then run the lift in between overall. But getting the Mark II miner down and setting the rate of production, and yeah. After getting everything powered up, I came to the very quick realization that I botched belt speed placement here, and you might have already caught it already, but we placed a Mark I lift and not a Mark II, which is hamstringing the limestone coming into the factory. Additionally, I did also botch something even better. And it was pretty embarrassing. Ultimately, in hindsight, I was questioning how the heck I could have made such a mistake, and saw the fact that the steel ingots weren't moving, and I was like, wait, we got the recipe set. What's in the lift? It's steel ingots. Wait, what's the recipe? Oh, it's steel beams. And I just realized I botched the logistics. After fixing that problem and letting the factory run for a little bit, or while I let the factory run for a little bit, I wanted to come back home and take a look and see what we needed for Mark III logistics to get that unlocked, since we are going to need some of that to get the factory up to 100% efficiency. And while I was there, took a look at a new hard drive alternate recipe, and as mentioned, the iron pipe, easy solution here. It's a fantastic alternate recipe for the reasons I mentioned, so grab that while we were waiting. And then also encountered this random spiderling. Interestingly enough, when I take the zip line back home, this thing aggroes me and follows me the entire way. Super bizarre. So with the factory having run or been running for a little bit, grabbed the steel beams and pipes that we needed for unlocking Mark III logistics. Got that unlocked, so that way we can head back and get the belts going into the factory, upgraded to Mark III, so that way we can be running at 100% efficiency. And don't mind the clipping here. Like I said, I just wanted to get the factory up and running to at least some level, so that way we can go ahead and actually do what we're doing now, but also spend some time and get some polish going on everything. So, like the limestone node, that was encased in its own little structure. We haven't set that up quite yet for the coal nodes or the iron, but wanted to at least get this set up so that way while we're taking care of all of that, for the most part, the factory will be running at 100%, or at least close to. And to that point regarding the polish, because we now do have the blueprint machine unlocked, I went ahead and took the opportunity to create blueprints for the walls, and getting this set up was wonderful. I mean, technically it's all in straight lines, so it's easy to pretty much zoop things, but this is still faster, ultimately, and consistent when it comes to the rotation of that texture that we can see here on the external face. So just getting this all set up was definitely a huge benefit, for sure. So let's go over the inputs coming into the factory. So let's take a look at our limestone first. So we have that coming down and being split into a 5 split into the constructor. So we have the split over here going into its own 3 lines respectively, and then over here we have similar 3 lines, and then one of those lines is coming back into the initial merger here. And just a quick point of order, whenever you have a 1-to-5 split or any type of split like this where you have a belt coming back into the main feed or main input, you want to make sure that that belt can actually accommodate the additional belt coming back. So for example, if we had 270 limestone coming in and we only had the Mark III belt there, we would actually end up having a backup, because the 270 coming in outright would be competing with that feedback belt that's coming back through into the line. For the steel pipe, it's pretty simple on our ingots. So we have a foundry output above us, and we have a splitter with 3 belts. So we have 2 belts coming off into a merger, and then we have our 3rd belt here. So 45 divided by 3 is 15. So 2 belts coming together here, 15 and 15, gives us a belt of 30 that goes up into our constructor, making our steel pipes. Then the other 15 just gets merged in with the rest of the output going up for our steel beams. Last but not least, we have our logistics for the steel beam output going into our 2 assemblers here. So for our encased industrial beams, we need 18 steel beams per assembler. We have 2, so we need a total of 36 steel beams. And this is where I hit a snag with the logistics, similar to how I kind of spoke to the concrete, which we'll kind of cover as we kind of go through everything for it. So because the output for our steel beams is 60 per minute, it's kind of an awkward to try and do like, all right, how do we get 36 onto a belt? Because our belts operate, at base 60 for a Mark 1. But essentially 60 divided by 5 is 12. And then if you take 5 and multiply that by 3, 36, we'll get our output that we need for our assemblers. And then if you multiply that by 2, we'll get 24. So we essentially just do a merge of all of our beams onto a belt, divide that into 5 even lines, take 3 of those lines into our assemblers, and then take the other 2 into our storage. However, as mentioned, the output for our steel beams is 60 per minute, and we're doing a 1-to-5 split. So the issue I had is I was using a Mark 1 belt after the merger, and because the 60 is going into 5 lines of 12, the initial kind of split that we have on this splitter here, so this is the Mark 1 belt that we had, and we tried to, so we're dividing this onto 2 Mark 1 belts. This split is getting split 3 times, so we have a line of 10, and I'm flubbing the math here as I was actually recording this live, so forgive the silliness here, but we have essentially a belt of 10 coming back into that merger, and I was thinking for some reason that it was 13.3, or like, essentially 40, and completely botched it, like I said, but we had 10 coming back on, so essentially we were trying to put 10 steel beams onto a Mark 1 belt that already was trying to transfer 60. So this belt here specifically needed to be a Mark 2, so that way 70 steel beams could transfer on it, and that's what led to the backup and inefficiency. Getting all the logistics sorted out and getting the factory up to 100% efficiency, came back to main base with our steel pipes and unlocked the SAM fluctuator recipe. However, we can't do anything with this. Well, we can manually craft it. We cannot automate it, however, because it does require 3 inputs, and as a result, we don't have a manufacturer, therefore we cannot automate it. So it would be a little bit of manual crafting, but we can automate the reanimated SAM, so having access to that will be beneficial, and as we need the SAM fluctuators, we'll just craft it up as needed, essentially. One last piece to get unlocked in our Caterium tree is unlocking the AI limiter here, and then crafting up the necessary amount so that way we can unlock the smart splitter. And this will be very beneficial, so that way when we have our outputs from our factory, we can prioritize storage, and then when storage is full, we can take the remaining overflow and put that into our awesome sink, so that way we can get more points to get coupons to then unlock additional things from the awesome shop passively. And this will also just make sure that our factories are persistently running or consistently running, so that way our power consumption is accurate and we're not at risk of creating a false sense of overhead when it comes to power consumption. With the smart splitters unlocked and our Mark III belt unlocked, I took the opportunity to head back into where we were producing our reanimated SAM, because the output was limited to our 120 because of the recipe is 120 to 30 in terms of SAM ore to reanimated SAM. So now that we can have a throughput of 240 on our Mark III belt, went ahead and added in the second constructor, and then utilizing our smart splitter, went ahead and also made it so that way we are prioritizing storage for the reanimated SAM, and then again, as mentioned, taking the remainder, that overflow, once it's full, and sinking it into the awesome sink. The moment I've been kind of working towards with a good bit of excitement is getting the SAM, the storage depots unlocked. So coming back to base, quickly grabbed our completed hard drive here and snagged the stitched iron plate recipe because of the iron wire alternate that we have unlocked, making that a pretty strong option here. But yeah, so unlocked the dimensional depot. We manually crafted a good bit of SAM fluctuators with what we had at our disposal, again because we don't have the manufacturer. So I wanted to get the storage depots unlocked, because then we essentially, with all of our little remote modular factories, if you will, can have access to our product.
Dimensional depot unlocked. SAM can be used.
And taking a look at actually building the depot, seeing what it requires, the modular frames is a little bit of a hit, but not too bad. And overall, I like the design, pretty clean. I like the fact that it's kind of suspended, implying that there's some level of vibration, if you will, when it comes to uploading material into the cloud, which is pretty neat. And just kind of taking a look at it, and For those unfamiliar, or at least just in terms of my perspective at this time, is looking at the upload rate of only 15 per minute. And we saw in the MAM research tree the different tiers of research to complete, both offering faster upload speed and then also increasing maximum stack storage. So limitation to 100. But overall, really excited to have this tech unlocked with what it means for, how we're going to be able to expand our factory moving forward. The manual depot uploader, which would be nice, especially for when we're out and researching things and being able to free up inventory space and just uploading from our pocket into the cloud pocket. Super convenient, but we're going to need quite a few sand fluctuators, but also at the same time a good bit of mercer spheres, requiring a good bit of additional exploration. To that point, with our newfound means of storage, immediately went back to our steel factory and modified the storage. So utilizing some industrial storage containers just for maximum backup storage, as a buffer into our actual storage depots built on top. Felt it was a reasonable solution, and went ahead and revised it for our steel beams, steel pipes, and our industrial steel beams as well, or encased steel beams rather. One additional product that we wanted to get uploaded to the cloud for building purposes and finishing up this steel factory is adding a storage depot for our concrete output. So that way, with the immense amount of concrete that we use, not having to come back to our base is going to be super beneficial. And one piece of advice here, a little bit of, call it forbidden technology, like abusing the mechanic, if you will. So our upload speed is 15 per minute, which is awful. However, you can add additional storage depots to an output of a factory and double or triple whatever amount of storage depots you have to increase your upload rate. It doesn't affect stack size saved in the cloud, but say for example, if I knew at this point in time, let me just build 3 storage depots with concrete going into each one, my upload would then become 45 per minute, not 15. So little piece of friendly advice for everyone. And I know that if I didn't say anything about this, I would absolutely have comments down below saying, oh, you can build more storage depots. So I wanted to at least allude to the fact that I did come to that understanding. With all of that progress made, said and done, let's take a final look at the completed factory. Came out pretty good, really enjoying it. So starting with our limestone, getting myself prepared for this nice little slide jump here. We got our limestone coming down through our beltway here. Again, that vertical tower system I think is a great solution for the modularity of our logistics running into our factory. So here we have the limestone coming in, and we have our semi-unique stack of walls here. And then we have our storage contained within this space here, all hidden away, nice and clean heading in. So we have our storage depots up top for all 3 products. Fantastic. We'll always have access to our steel products now for future building needs. A little gloomy inside just because we don't have our lighting yet, but soon.tm, if you will, for all of that. And heading up to the second floor here, opted to, we don't need to fill in the entire floor. So like this whole space here doesn't technically need to be covered, to create that box. We got a little bit of staggering here. But again, a little dark in here, no lighting yet. But we do have our 4 constructors and 2 assemblers, nice, clean, tidy, all of our power being routed underneath into the sandwich layer. And finally cleaned up the iron and coal mining nodes and got that all squared away, bringing all that into our factory. So similar to the coal power system, we have this little piece sticking out up the top, but otherwise fairly clean, come straight into the factory and have that resolved. Heading down below, we do have the 2 coal nodes in close proximity, so just opted to merge them together onto the singular belt, keep that all cleaned up as best as possible. Looking to get a nice view here of the factory from afar, just kind of showing the profile and how it kind of sits against the environment here. I think it came out pretty great. You know, we do have that solid chunk of white at the base there, and a decent bit of clipping, the stone protruding out of the base. But overall, I think it looks great. I think, you know, this motif, as mentioned in the initial build in episode 3, really, just really nice. I think the white pops really well, and this little oasis here is just a nice little touch of calm with the overall visual simplicity of our build, and you know, Mr. Bean there coming to take a look and admiring our work. So overall, a lot of progress made, I would say, both from, you know, creating this factory, but then also a lot of MAM research was completed as well. So overall, really impressed with the turnout and progress that we've made. Yeah, the storage depots are going to be a game changer. I love it. Anyway, if you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like. It does help out the channel. If you want to see more content in the future and you're not subscribed, be sure to do so and hit the notification bell so that way you're alerted. I do know that it has been quite a while between episodes for those watching live, and between vacation, hurricanes, getting sick after vacation, and then trying to get the house back in order post hurricanes and post getting sick, and then also simultaneously getting the house ready for the holidays now that we are, you know, essentially at Thanksgiving, and then into Christmas. I had a lot of priorities elsewhere, so I do apologize for the delay between episodes, and appreciate everyone's patience. And with that, you know, I'll see you all in the next one. Storage Depot's amazing. Take care, everyone, and have a great holiday season.